The strangely named Nintendo Wii proved to be one of the top all-time selling game consoles. Released in late 2006, it's almost 18 years old. And while Nintendo shut down its online services, the beauty of physical media means you can keep playing your offline games without issue. There must still be a demand for this console, as a range of new custom cases have recently appeared on AliExpress. So I thought I'd jazz up one of these consoles and see just how easy the conversion is to do, because it's been a while since I've done a custom console. I purchased this custom case for only 23 Australian dollars, but the price will vary thanks to deceptive pricing. Opening the item in a clean new web browser, the price in cart is $11 plus $3 shipping. When I proceed to check out and sign in, the price skyrockets to $28. If you read the fine print at checkout, the first displayed price was a promo deal. That's not clear when you're looking at the item. No mention of any new member discount until you get to checkout. So always be careful when shopping on AliExpress. But our case is here with its trademark safe Wii logo. Inside is the case and some other small parts. Beginning the disassembly, I'll first remove the two doors concealing the GameCube accessory ports. There is then 3 screws that need to be removed, one of which is a different length. We'll need to keep track of all the screws as we go and make sure they go back into the correct places when we reassemble the console. Under this plastic cover is 4 more screws, 2 of which are tri-wing deterrent screws. There is adjacent screws on the other side, this time hidden under some little stickers. There is another located under the clock battery door and another under a rubber foot, along with 2 more on the bottom. Now the front panel can be lifted away from the enclosure and its one cable disconnected. To get the shell open, there is still 2 more screws, which to no surprise are hidden. Nintendo really didn't want anyone to see any screws. Now the top of the console can be removed. On first impressions, this console is very clean for its age, with minimal dust. It's in fantastic condition, but I'll still need to give it a clean, especially as we'll be able to see the inside of this console when it's reassembled. Removing the 2 tri-wing screws we left in earlier, this top shield can come off. Then we can remove the CD tray by unfastening 4 screws and unplugging 2 cables. Next to come out is the fan before we start working on getting the 2 antennas free, one of which is screwed into place, the other clipped. I'll need to unroute both antenna cables before we begin to remove the shrouding over the heatsink. There is several more pieces to come out before we can even see the motherboard. There's a lot of screws holding this console together, and with them being various sizes, it's important to keep track of them. I wouldn't say this console is challenging to take apart, but you'd certainly need to have the proper screwdrivers and a guide, as with so many hidden screws, it's not a self-explanatory disassembly. Removing this last shield will give us access to the motherboard, the last component left inside. The motherboard houses a 738 MHz PowerPC processor with 512 MB of storage and ATI graphics. Not impressive by today's standards, but considering its age and capabilities, I'd say it performs well for the hardware it has. Interestingly, the heatsink has been cut down to fit inside the device. I don't recall ever having seen that before. I'll need to remove the 4 screws from the heatsink in order to remove the motherboard from the case. There is another metal shield below that you could install in the new case, but that would significantly degrade the look, so I'll be leaving it out. As the internals will be visible with the new case, I'll need to make sure there's no dust, fingerprints or other marks on both the case or components as they're installed. I had planned to replace the thermal paste, but it doesn't have any. Instead, it uses thermal pads, which are still malleable and in good condition. It's now time to put all those screws we took out earlier back into place, along with the necessary brackets and other components inside this console. With both Wi-Fi antennas attached, it's now time to clean out the fan. I'll use a combination of a brush and some air to clean it out as best I can. Then it can be fastened inside the console and reconnected to the motherboard. The disk drive is next. I'll connect its flex cables before lowering it into place and attaching its 4 screws. But before we continue, I think it's time to have a word from our sponsor, myself, and my application, iTest. Available for both iOS and Android, iTest provides the ability to test hardware functions of a phone or tablet, with both a semi-automatic mode or manual mode, allowing you to easily test functions that would otherwise be too complicated without the aid of such an application. These include things like the compass, gyroscope, proximity and light sensors, or even screen burn-in. At the end of testing, you can get a nice little overview of your results and easily share them if needed. This Nintendo Wii is starting to take shape, but this ugly bracket on top is going to hide our view of the disk drive, so again I'm going to leave it out. Before we get the two halves together, I'm going to salvage out this vent, giving it a proper clean off before it's attached into the new case. Now the two halves can be put together. While attaching the screws into the new case, it's important to only tighten them slowly and back them off if they become stuck. This is because we are creating new thread as we're tightening the screws. I'll also attach the rubber feet with some new adhesive, as the original disintegrated on removal. There's still a few of these rubber feet located on the old case, which I'll transfer across. However, I won't be attaching the purely cosmetic stickers that covered some of the other screws, as having tiny white squares will stand out more than just seeing the screws. After all, seeing the hardware is the aesthetic of this new case. I'll transfer the clock battery over to the new transparent tray and install it into the Wii. This console is really starting to take shape and it looks fantastic. There's just a few more screws and panels to reattach before we can give it a test. The most important of which is the new front panel. It even comes with transparent buttons. However, I'll still need to transfer the LED lights from the old front panel into our new one. This is a fairly easy process, only requiring the removal of a few screws and the main slot loading drive cover. During reassembly, I found the new reset button didn't fit, but the original buttons do. I think the contrast of the white buttons look better against the transparent case anyway, so I was happy to reuse the original ones. Now it's just a case of installing the original drive cover and its retaining bracket. Proceeding, the front panel can now be attached to the console. Now there's just a couple more screws and the port covers to reattach. With that, we can now remove the plastic protective film from our new case. And we're done. So this is it, a modified custom transparent Nintendo Wii. Overall, this is a cheap and fairly achievable modification that drastically changes the look of the console. As someone who loves to know how things work, I enjoy being able to see the internals of the device in operation. It's not a design everyone likes, but many do. All that's left to do is power it up and see this console working. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the HDMI adapter that was supplied with it to work with my monitor in the studio, so I had to plug it into my television. Shout out to Gem for her console. It has many game saves from some classic Wii games, along with a great array of goofy Mii characters. But without any game discs, there isn't much more I can show other than Henry's perfect Mario Kart score. So on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the custom tech playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.